Great. All right. Thank you all so much for joining for today's grantee orientation call. This call is optional but encouraged for all grant recipients to either attend or to view after the fact. Um, and I'm going to walk through our agenda for today. See if this works. There we go. All right. So yeah, please mute yourself when you join on. Welcome, Keely. Welcome, everyone. Um, Please mute yourself when you join on and feel free to use the raised hand feature to speak, or you can also type your comment in the chat or just jump in and interrupt if you have any questions as we're moving through. And the session will be recorded, so just keep that in mind. Okay, here is our agenda for our conversation today. We have about an hour and a fair amount of content to cover, but I'm confident we can get through it. So we're going to start off by just talking about the overview of the grant program. Then we're going to talk out the different components of the grant supports for your project team as you get started here with your grant awards. Then we're going to talk about coming up soon, the action planning workshops, which you should have all gotten emails about, and hopefully most of you have already registered for a session with your team. But we're just going to do a little prep for that. And then we're going to walk through the grant agreement terms and conditions with some key deadlines to keep track of. And we'll talk about reports. And last but not least, Diana is going to offer a little demonstration of how to submit your first grant claim for payment. And that is what you can do as soon as you sign your grant award and the agency executes it. You are then eligible for your first payment on the grant award. And so that'll be kind of the first task that you'll need to do as associated with your grant project to get things started. Any questions about the agenda at this point? Okay, we'll just keep rolling through. So, as you all know, the purpose of this grant program is to help Vermont-based early child care providers in schools build and strengthen farm-to-school and farm-to-early childhood programs. And this grant is specifically designed around the 3 C's of farm to school. And there's this lovely little diagram here that I stole from the Food Connects website. And I think it really illustrates well the cafeterias, communities, and classrooms and the intersections, the certain activities that have the intersection of all of those components. And yeah. So this is a little diagram to just kind of show how the program operates within the grant program. So the Vermont State Legislature, this grant is funded by the state legislature. The legislature directs funds to the Vermont Agency of Agriculture to manage farm to school grant programming. One of the 3 grant programs that we offer is this grant, the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grant. We have 2 other grants that are not pictured on this diagram. One is the Community Supported Agriculture Grant, and the other is the Vision Grant. But for the purpose of the conversation today, we're focusing on just the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grant, which is our biggest grant program. And the funding kind of moves into 3 different buckets. So there's some funding that goes directly to the schools for the grant projects for implementation. Some funding goes to the coach program, which provides mentorship to each one of the grant teams. And then the last goes to technical assistance providers who provide support services in really specific areas of expertise that can support program development. And we've seen over time that this model of having mentorship, money, and expertise really leads to successful program development. So grateful to be able to continue that model and be grateful to have folks from all 3 buckets on the call today to talk about how we can get started with this fiscal year 2023 cohort. So the first bucket there on that diagram is grantees. So just at a high level, so you're all aware, the awards range from $7,000 to $15,000 based on enrollment. The awards will run from February 2023 till the end of June 2024. projects will address the 3 C's of farm to school and early childhood. Each grantee has already established a farm to school and early childhood team that will be implementing these projects. And the grantees will submit 2 performance reports to the Agency of Ag on progress throughout the grant period, and grant payments will be distributed on a set schedule, followed by the grantee's submission of a claim for payment in web grants, which, like I said at the outset, we'll cover how to do that at the end of this presentation. So the next bucket of where some funds go in the grant program is to the technical assistance service providers. So these are the 4 types of services that are available through our nonprofit partners. The Vermont Garden Network provides school and early childhood garden support. NOFA, which is in partnership with Shelburne Farms on the Vermont Feed Project as well, provides local procurement guidance. And then Shelburne Farms and Vermont Feed, also a partner on the Vermont Feed Project. Shelburne Farms focuses on curriculum development, and a lot of the materials that you'll use in your action planning process coming up this next week are also developed by Vermont Feed, which is the partnership between NOFA and Shelburne Farms. And just a reminder to folks, as you jump on the call, if you're able to mute yourself, that'll be great, just for keeping the recording nice and clean. And the last but not least bucket here is meal program viability and food access with our partners at Hunger Free Vermont. And across the board for all of these areas of expertise, folks in these organizations will provide customizable trainings to farm to school early childhood grantees. These are provided at no cost to grantees, and the trainings can be virtual or in person based on program needs, and they'll be scheduled and designed to meet the availability and capacity of the grantee project team. So these are really your services as grantees for you to use in the way that's going to be most beneficial to your program. I will note that there is an expectation that all grantees will engage with TA activities at some degree over the course of their grant project. And I'm going to walk through, next up, we're going to walk through a little more detail on these 4 buckets to explain them in greater depth. But before we get into that, are there any specific questions about this model or the high-level overview offered? Okay. If any questions come up, feel free to just interrupt me. We'll keep rolling through. So the first TA provider that we'll talk about is the support for gardens from Vermont Garden Network. And I developed slides for all the TA providers, and we have some TA providers on the call. So if you would like to, if you're able to, I'd welcome you to kind of give the little rundown of the services that you provide, perhaps in addition to what I've offered here on the slide. Cedar, would you like to take it away?
Absolutely. And I think Angela's planning on, is in another meeting right now, but is planning on joining us partway through this. Angela will be, for anyone that's interfacing with us, helping to provide support or anything, she's going to be the main one working on this grant this year. So yeah, in the past, we've run virtual workshops to help various schools and early childhood ed centers kind of figure out how to plan out a new garden and how to build a gardening program to engage their learners. We have gone in person to a number of these sites to help do some additional planning there. And we now also have our vegetation van that I run that I can bring to sites as part of that technical assistance in person. And then we've done some on-site workshops at a few of the sites as well, and that would be something that we can bring the van to. But yeah, I think you kind of encapsulated all of it here. I also was not fully in charge of this grant last year, so I know there were a lot of things that Libby did that I may not be privy to, but that is my understanding of everything we've been doing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cedar. Welcome to the team. And yeah, I'm not seeing Angela on yet, but if Angela does hop on, she can introduce herself as well.
Yeah, I think she's supposed to be on by like 1:25.
Beautiful. Okay. We'll have an opportunity to circle back. All right. The next TA provider is Shelburne Farms. And I think I see Cynthia on the call. So Cynthia and Jed, if either of you would like to hop on video, or both of you hop on video and share a little bit about the services that Shelburne Farms provides to grantees in addition to what's on the slide, please feel free to do so. Oh, Cynthia, for some reason I can't hear you. Maybe that's a me problem. Does that other people hear? Do other people hear Cynthia? No. Uh-oh. I'm sorry. No, not fair.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. It's really hard for me to hear you guys. Sorry. My computer sometimes does not like Teams. My apologies. And Jed, feel free to jump in if you happen to be there. But hello, everyone. I'm Cynthia Green. I work with Shelburne Farms. I'm also part of the Vermont Feed team as well. And Shelburne Farms offers a variety of curriculum professional development for early care and education providers, as well as school-based programs as well. We have additional colleagues who offer the school-based program. Courtney Mulcahy and Jennifer Cirillo are additional partners. And really, we do this in a variety of ways by offering some virtual workshops. We can do some in-person on-site work in early childhood, at least. We usually invite additional programs within a particular region because we find that networking is really powerful. And our curriculum is pretty broad, right? Like we try to align with the Vermont Early Learning Standards and our quality rating and improvement system STARS, but it really depends on where programs are, and we try to tailor it to the needs of programs where we can. And again, we work across the early learning standards and we work with family engagement, so it can be pretty flexible.
Ditto. Cynthia did a great job. I'm Jed Norris. I work with Shelburne Farms.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jed and Cynthia. I really appreciate it. And yes, one thing to note too is, yeah, for all of these, and I forgot to mention that at the outset, some TA providers have a lot of expertise in early childhood or K-12 or both. And Cynthia and Jed both really work in early childhood and also K-12, but Cynthia has like a background, especially in early childhood. So just to note that all of these services are available to folks across that, or to students or children across the whole age spectrum. All TA providers will serve both ECEs and K-12 schools. Okay, great. Thank you so much. The next up is NOFA. So Kayla, I wonder if you want to chime in here?
Yeah, happy to. Hi, everyone. I'm Kayla. I use she, her pronouns. I am the Farm to School Programs Coordinator at NOFA Vermont, which is the Northeast Organic Farming Association. And I work on the Vermont Feed project as well with my colleagues at Shelburne Farms. So our role, NOFA's role in technical assistance, is to help schools and early childhood centers connect with local farmers and basically increase their local purchasing. And we do that through a variety of different ways. We can help teams identify local farms and producers in their region to work with. We can help with forwarding contracts, navigating procurement regulations, applying to specific local foods incentive grants if you're a K-12 school or school district, and support with local tracking as well. We're definitely very flexible on how we provide this TA. We'd love to meet with you in person if that's what you'd like. We're also happy to meet over Zoom. We've also collaborated with Hunger Free in the past and kind of provided a co-TA session just so that you all can, get the most out of your time. Yeah, so any questions that you have, I'm here throughout the year to provide TA. My colleague Helen will also be available through some of the year, but we're doing a staff transition at NOFA. So if you have any local procurement questions, please reach out to me first. And my email is not on this slide, but I'm sure you will get it. It is kayla@nofavt.org. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Kayla. Yes, I did forget to put the emails on the slide, but they will be sent to everyone after. Okay, next up is Keely for Free Vermont.
Hello, everybody. My name is Keely Egan, and I'm the Early Childhood Nutrition Manager at Hunger Free Vermont. We have historically worked on meal program viability and food access in the sense of specifically working with schools to help implement universal school meal models, help with meal application campaigns, just making sure that all children who are able to are actively engaging with the school food service program and all the amazing things like farm to school initiatives that come along with that. And so now that we have an incredible early childhood component of this grant opportunity as well, we do similar things in the sense that we are actively working with a lot of early childhood programs to either assist them with their child and adult care food program work, making it, expanding it, making it work better for the program. But we also have a lot of opportunities to be creative for programs who maybe the child and adult care food program is not an option for you. So ways that we can work on things like food security engagement for parents and other creative solutions to meal programming at different levels. The really fun thing is that you have me as the early childhood nutrition manager. So I would say I'm going to be your contact if you're an early childhood program. And then my colleague Tim, who's not on the call right now, is our school age expert. So you kind of have both of those perspectives with us in our team. Like Cynthia said, we work on being really nimble. We want to meet you where you're at, especially since the pandemic. We've realized that we've had to pivot some of the responses that we've had to meal program viability, but we are being constantly creative, like Kayla said, working together as TA providers to meet you where you're at. And then something I will also mention for my early childhood folks is that there are opportunities within some of the trainings that we provide for approved professional development credits, as we are a Northern Lights sponsor. So that's an opportunity in there as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keely. Thank you all. I hope that this overview has given all the grantees a little bit more of a sense as to the variety of services available to help you meet your project goals, and keep these in mind, keep these names and these faces in mind as you're working through your action planning process. These folks are available to support you in implementing your grant projects that the grant review committee was really excited about, and we're really excited to be here to support you all. Okay, so the third kind of prong of that three-legged stool that we shared at the outset here is the grant coach program. So thank you all, and welcome, Angela. Angela, we just finished up the TA component, and I wonder if you want to just quickly introduce yourself and which organization you're calling in from.
Hi, yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. I was just in another meeting that went over a bit. So I'm coming from and representing the Vermont Garden Network, and I was just recently hired full-time, and I'm taking on some of the role of this whole grant project. So I am here to learn more and then eventually support everyone even more. So
Wonderful.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. Welcome. Happy to have you here. Okay, so now moving into the coach component here. Just all of this information was provided in the RFA when you applied to the grant, and also noted in your award notification letter, but just wanted to kind of give another overview of the coach program. Many of you may have already heard from your coaches, giving maybe an introduction email, and we'll talk a little bit more about clarify whose coach is assigned to who in the next slide. But as an overview, each grantee is assigned a coach who will work with you throughout the duration of the grant. coaches are experts within the farm to school and early childhood community. And many of the coaches come from some of the TA organizations that offered presentations earlier, and then also from regional farm to school organizations or other farm to school practitioners across the state. So your coach will reach out to you before your first action planning session to just kind of get acquainted and make sure you have all the information you need to succeed in that action planning workshop, or the series of workshops, I should say, because there are 2 per team. So these are some of the services that coaches provide via site visits, email communication, and so on. Coaches will help you to create your farm to school and early childhood action plan and timeline. They'll also support you in completing your farm to school and early childhood rubric, which is part of the action planning process. Coaches will connect and coordinate between the team and technical assistance service providers wherever that's useful to, as you're working through a project, a coach can say, hey, who would be great to bring into this? Keely from Hunger Free Vermont to help work on this aspect of the project. So that's another really important role that the coaches play. And coaches also help growing relationships between your farm to school team and the local community, and helping getting the word out about the efforts underway. Coaches can also, because they are experts themselves, can also provide consultation on specific topics around farm visits, classroom activities, curriculum development, all of those as appropriate, and they're working, dedicated to your team to serve in a mentorship capacity throughout the grant. And we have many coaches on the call as well. So I'm also going to kind of ask coaches that are on the call to, again, kind of say your name and which school that you're working with or early child care center that you're working with, just so folks can put faces to names however they can. So let me see, is Maggie Rubik on the call? Yes.
Hi, I'm Maggie, and I will be coaching Bennington Early Childhood Center this year. This is actually my first time coaching for the Agency of Ag Grant, but we, as a program ourselves, have been previous grant recipients, and I'm very excited to get re-involved with the Farm to School Network again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, Maggie. Is Missy on the call? No. That's okay. What about Jed?
Yes, I'm here. I'll be coaching the Charlotte Children's Center and the Creative Learning Childcare and Preschool group. Looking forward to it. This is my second time coaching. I did it probably about 5 years ago with the family room, Janet S. Munt family room, I believe. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jed. Is Rachel Huff on the call? Not seeing Rachel on the call. Okay. Keely.
Hello again. I'm so excited to be back coaching the Milton Family Community Center, and I always just love to share the full circle story that is where I went to preschool. So I get to be back working with many of the same faces who I've known in the Milton community for years, and I was the farm to school coordinator in Milton for a few years, so it always feels full circle and lovely to be working with that whole team.
Thanks, Keely. Cynthia.
Everyone, again, it's Cynthia with Shelburne Farms, and I have the honor of working with 2 programs this year, which I'm really excited about. So I'll be working with Mountain Village School in Stowe, and I'll also be working with Turtle Island Children's Center in Montpelier. I'm really looking forward to working with these groups. I've been in the field for a while and have not had the opportunity to connect with these programs more intimately. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know you all.
Thank you, Cynthia. Elise.
Hi, my name is Elise Parambo, and I am going to be the coach for the North Country Supervisory Union Charleston Elementary School. This is my first time coaching, and it's also kind of an exciting program for us because we're graduating this school out of our farm to school program to them being independent. So very exciting to see.
Wonderful. Thank you, Elise. Kayla.
Hi again, I am Kayla. I work for NOFA Vermont, and I'm going to be coaching One Arts in Burlington this year. I think I saw one of my teammates on the call, Sam. Hello. Looking forward to working with you, and yeah, excited to see where your program goes this year.
Thank you, Kayla. It looks like Jenny Kessler may not be on the call, and I know that Sheila was not able to join, but I do see that Chris is here from Hunger Free Vermont. So I don't know. I mean, sorry, from Food Connects. So I don't know, Chris, if you'd like to introduce yourself, maybe say a couple words about Food Connects.
Hi, yeah. I'm the farm to school program manager at Food Connects, and I've actually just started within the last couple of months. So I'm learning here as well. So Sheila Humphrey will be coaching two different programs, the Academy School, and then also I think a consortium, if I'm understanding correctly, of early childhood centers as well. And then Jenny, who was our other coach. So both Jenny and Sheila are farm to school coaches in the farm to school program at Food Connects. And she's going to be coaching the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union. So I'm not sure if any of you folks are on the call, but neither Jenny nor Sheila could make it. So they're really looking forward to this, and they'll be looking at the recording and catching up with you as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, Chris, in their stead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So next up, let's just talk a little bit about the action planning workshops, as I'm sure there's been some emails going back and forth that you've seen about this. So just a reminder that the action planning workshops are separate from this grantee orientation. This is really focused on like the administration of the grant and making sure that you understand kind of like the big picture, how it functions and how to get grant payments paid and so on. But the action planning workshops are really on the ground, working with your team to collaboratively figure out how you're going to implement the project that you've proposed at the outset of the farm to school application process. So there are two sessions, two like series, the A series and the B series, that will take place both on the 9th and the 23rd of March, which are Thursdays. So you can either sign up for the afternoon sessions, which happen from 3:30 to 5:30 on both of those dates, or the 6 to 8 p.m. sessions on both of those dates. And just a reminder that your entire team, including your coach, should plan to attend either the A sessions or the B sessions. And there are a couple documents that'll be helpful for you to review in advance that your coaches may have already sent to you by email. And if not, I'll just send them out as well at the end of this call to everybody that's on this. But Kayla, yes, please do chime in as one of the actual hosts and organizers of the action planning series.
Thank you. I didn't want to interrupt you. I was going to wait till you were done, but I just wanted to let you know that we're really excited for these action planning workshops, and it is pretty crucial that you come as a team with your team. So just make sure that everyone is signed up for the same session, and that's either session A in the afternoons or B in the evenings. And I've done some organizing on the back end, and I'm happy to send coaches and teams a folder with a specific template for you for your action plan, as well as a rubric for you to fill out. We find it's really helpful to kind of have everyone collaborating on the same document. So during the action planning sessions, we are all looking at the same thing. So I'm happy to follow up with coaches and teams afterwards, Gina, if you'd like. I just finished that this morning, so I didn't have time to send it out ahead of time, but I'm happy to follow up with folks with those templates for you to review beforehand, and we'll be working on them together as a group. Sorry, choking. As a group during the sessions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kayla. That's super helpful. Yeah. Wait. What was that, Kayla?
I just see something in the chat from Sam, and they are virtual. Yes.
virtual action planning workshops. Great. Yeah, and this is just something to note. So the action planning is something that the Vermont Feed Team is managing, not the Agency of Agriculture. So I'll plan to be on those calls kind of as learning opportunity. I'm fairly new to my position here as well. But in terms of questions about the workshops themselves and how to get ready, folks like Kayla and Cynthia and Courtney Mulcahy, who's Cahy, sorry, I feel like I'm mispronouncing Courtney's last name. Her email's right there. She's also one of the lead organizers for that. If you have questions. Will an email reminder be sent out?
Yes, we will definitely send out an email reminder. And I will send registration links in the chat in a moment. I just sent in some of the times that the sessions are as a reminder, but I will follow up with registration links. If you have not signed up, please work with your team and sign up soon. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kayla, for that additional context. All right. So these are some high-level next steps over the next couple of weeks here. Oh, oops, that was meant to be in a different slide. Please ignore that. That does not apply to you all. You don't need to worry about coach agreements. That was for a coach's orientation that we did earlier this week. The next part of this process is going to be talking about the grant agreements. So I'm going to share my screen in just a minute here and walk through the core components of the grant agreement template. Note that we are working to get these out, and I'm not sure if any of them have gone out yet, but if they haven't yet, Diana is working really hard on that, and it's going to happen this week or at the very latest next week if there's any like documentation issues that have continued that we need, because we need to collect certain documentation before we can execute grant agreements with folks. So the key core components of the grant agreement are the grant award detail, the scope of work, the payment provisions, and attachment C, which is the customary state grant provisions. So we're going to talk through that for a little bit here together, and just as a reminder to read through that full grant agreement when you get it before signing, just to make sure your organization totally understands the obligations and responsibilities associated with it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick and pull up that template. We'll get right back to the presentation afterwards. Are folks seeing my screen again? Beautiful. Okay. All right. So here is the basic. This is the first page of what your grant agreement will look like. Of course, all of these things will be filled in and not blank. This is just the template. But I have a few notes for things I want to call out. So this is the grant detail page. So, you'll see your grant end date there, the fiscal agent's organization name, and so on, the grant award amount. All of this should line up with the grant award notification that you received via email. And then your contact information will appear down here for the grant. Again, these are kind of like the high level components of the grant agreement to kind of help break it out into chunks. So that was the grant award detail section, and now we're going to look at the scope of work. This is a standardized template. All of the grant awards will have the same scope of work. It's essentially, you're going to implement your project as proposed. You're going to do action planning throughout the grant process to continue to adjust the specifics of your project proposal, and work across the 3 C's of farm to school in the classroom, cafeteria, and community. At attachment A, the scope of work is also where your reporting requirements are really clearly enumerated. So this is a great thing to refer to throughout the course of your grant agreement for deadlines and details. So you have an interim report that's due on or before December 31, 2023, and then a final report due on the last day of the grant, which is July 1st, 2024. And these are some required components within those. Just note that early submission of interim reports is acceptable, but only when a grantee's completed a significant amount of their grant activities, including their action plan and rubric, and similar for final reports. We'll look at this diagram of the timeline later. So attachment B is the payment provision. So this details the schedule and the conditions for grant payment. These are all the required documentation that folks have been required to submit beforehand. Just to note again, I believe this was in the award notification email. If you haven't already set up your fiscal organization with direct deposit to expedite the payments, there's a form to do that in the grant agreement and also available on our website. Otherwise, checks will be sent by mail. And this is the schedule of grant payments here. You'll find it in this section here. So the first 50% of the total grant award, which the dollar amount will adjust based on the total grant award, 50% of that will be paid out right after you sign your grant agreement, and we'll walk through the process at the end of the call for how to submit that first claim for payment for 50% of your grant award. 40% will be paid out after submitting the interim performance report, which, as you saw in the earlier section, is due December 31st, 2023, and a couple attachments are required to that, the rubric and action plan. And then the final payment, the last 10%, will be allowed to go out the door as soon as you've submitted your final performance report and I've reviewed that and approved it. And that includes a project expenses report and an updated action plan. So those are the kind of core components of the process to keep in mind. And I'm always referring back to this whenever I review claims and encourage folks to keep this in mind as well. To make sure that you get paid as early as you can. And we will send out reminders about that it's time to submit a claim for payment, but encourage you to kind of keep track of this on your own to ensure you're getting payments as soon as possible. Let's see. So attachment C, this is a standard document across all state grants. So if you've ever gotten a state government grant from Vermont before, this is one of the attachments. We don't have any, this is not an agency of ag specific document. Definitely recommend, encourage, require review of this entire document. This is legally binding as well. There's a lot in here. A couple things that I just wanted to pull out. There's an item here on insurance, and a lot of you all have already submitted your insurance information, but just noting that this is where those requirements around insurance come from. It's in the standard document for all state grants and contracts. Also, I wanted to bring attention to records retention, which I think that's here. Records available for audit. So just noting that any meaningful records around your grant you'll need to hold on to for 3 years after the grant. And so invoices for, receipts, invoices, PowerPoint presentations, documents, anything that's, in hand physical copy or electronically stored, to please keep those files on hand for 3 years in case of an audit. Unlikely, but possible. And then there's some notes in here about taxes, which is just something for all folks to keep in mind when receiving state monies. And speak to your tax preparer on that. That's not something that the Agency of Ag can provide guidance on. And then I did want to call attention to the Public Records Act. Hold on, sorry. I'm hurting your eyeballs here. Where's the Public Records Act? Well, it is in here. The yeah, I can't remember where it is in this, but it's in attachment C. Just note that there are because this is state funded, there are certain records, records that are considered public records if produced under this award. So just keep that in mind as you're collecting information throughout your project. Okay, that is the overview that I have on the grant agreement. And I'm going to jump back over to the slideshow now and open it up for any questions about the grant agreement at this point. Okay. Not hearing any now. They might come up as you get your agreements in hand and are reading through them. So feel free to reach out with questions that emerge. So this is another reiteration of the points that you saw listed in attachment A. These are the different components of the reports that are required to be submitted to the Agency of Agriculture throughout the course of your grant. The interim performance report includes a narrative as well as some attachments. In the narrative, we'll just include like a really brief summary of what's gone on so far. How's your school engaged with the community, and or how is your team engaged with the broader community? How has technical assistance been going? How has the coach program been going? And it's an opportunity for us to learn about how things are working and see if there's adjustments that we need to make, partway through the grant cycle to support your project success. You'll also be required to upload an action plan and rubric, which are the other documents we referred to earlier in this presentation. The final performance report will be due at the end of June or July 1st. And that is going to be a little bit longer. Describe all the goals and outcomes, what's been achieved, what kind of activities have happened as a result of this grant, how frequently, basically trying to understand how engaged the school or early childhood community has been in the project, what the impacts have been. You'll also upload a grant expenses report to clarify how funds ended up being spent, which might have been a little bit different than the initial plan as written in your application. And you'll also update your action plan to show how things have gone throughout the grant, upload that. Those are the reporting requirements. And like I said, you've got some time before the first report is due. That's in December, but just wanted to flag it now so you're ready for that deadline when it comes up. And the Agency of Ag's here to answer any questions you have about the reports. The reports are going to be submitted in WebGrants, which is our grant management system. It's the same system that you'll submit your claims for payment in. So if you have questions about either of those processes, Diana Ferguson and I at the Agency of Agriculture are going to be here to answer any questions as they arise. Hey, Diana. So here is so we're just going to do this quick presentation, the quick timeline review, and then we're going to pass it over to Diana for a little WebGrants tutorial of how to submit your first claim. So as a reminder, this month, all grantees will sign their grant agreements, and as soon as possible after that, we ask that you submit your first claim for payment. And then you'll attend the required two-part action planning meetings, which are on March 9th and the 23rd. And then throughout the spring, you'll work with your coach to develop your action plan. And spring to December, you'll implement your project and attend technical assistance training, execute your action plan, and complete the required deliverables and upload them into your interim performance report, which is due on the 31st. And that's also when your second claim for payment is due. And after you submit that, you'll receive the remaining 40% of the award. And then at the end of July 1st. That'll be the deadline for submitting final reports and claims. And one thing to just keep in mind about that is some folks who are on like the K-12 schedule might not be in school anymore at that point. So while teams are still convened, we really encourage you to submit that final report early if folks are going to be on summer vacation, to make sure that we can close out the grant agreements over the, on July 1st, rather than having them drag on too long into the summertime. And one thing I should note, yeah, I think that's probably about it. There are certain situations where we can offer extensions as well, and I think that's in the grant agreement language, but reach out to me and we can talk about it. We definitely need notice of at least 30 days before the end of the grant agreement to make those types of adjustments, but sometimes it's come up where like there's an event that's going to be happening after the grant period, so asking for the grant to move back another month or 2 months so that all of those activities can be captured in the final report. We can generally make accommodations for that on a case-by-case basis. So be in touch. Okay, and now I'm going to pass it over to Diana for a little web grants tutorial on how to submit your first claim.
Thanks, Gina. Nice to see you all today. I'm Diana Ferguson. I'm a grants management specialist with the agency, supporting the farm to institution programs as well as a few others. And I've met many of you, and I'm really excited for all of you to be grantees and then, of course, coaches and TA providers again this year. And wish you the best as things are getting started. So like Gina said, I am the tech support person for working in web grants. Most of you are familiar with the system, having worked on or submitted the application for your grant. And it's really your one-stop shop for grant management on the technical side. So I'm going to pull up my screen here in just a moment. And while I'm doing that, I will share too that if you, as a grantee, if the person who registered in the system and submitted the application is the primary contact, that's great. And the only contact in the case of maybe a small early childhood care center, that is fine. But if you are a school and you have a big team and there are going to be multiple people working on things like status reports, I'd recommend that you go ahead and have those folks that will be working in the system register now and create a separate account. So it's a best practice on our side for everyone to have their own web grants account. So if somebody's working on something and they're experiencing an issue, we can connect to them directly rather than having people share usernames and passwords across the team. So, and this is the case too for your fiscal agent. So same as fiscal agent, folks who are business office folks who are the ones to technically submit the application, they will also be the ones submitting claims for payment. And then we know maybe multiple people will be working on status reports. So please, if anyone will be from your team needing to access the system and hasn't yet registered, then shoot them a note and have them do that. And then they can send me an email to say, and I'll put my email in the chat, to say that they need to be connected to your active grant in the system. And so that won't be the case until once your grant agreement is signed and your project is officially underway, that the grant will actually be accessible in web grants. But when that's the case, if everybody is already registered and set up, then it will be that much easier to get started. So I realize this portion may not apply to all of you on the call, so thanks for bearing with us. But this is the homepage of web grants. I'd recommend if you're going to be in the system throughout the grant cycle to just go ahead and bookmark agriculturegrants.vermont.gov for easy access. And there's announcements here on the homepage, also a forgot password link if you need that. I'm going to be logging in as a test account to show you around a little bit, because it does look a little bit different from the grantee perspective as opposed to the applicant. So once you log in, you'll have what's called your dashboard, and you'll have reminders if you have status reports coming up or other things to pay attention to. negotiations, that's in the case that a claim or a status report gets sent back to you to be corrected if Gina sees something missing or needs more information. So generally, this is just your homepage when you log in, and something to call attention to is this last button on the right, My Profile. These gray buttons on the left-hand side are your primary navigation buttons. So if you click on My Profile, you'll see your contact information that was taken when you registered. If you'd like to reset your password, you can do that here, so it's something more memorable for you. And if any of your contact information changes, then please remember to edit your profile so that everything is up to date in the system. So to access your grant, and again, this will be once your agreement has been signed, and maybe within a couple of days after signing, you can log in and you will see that you have an active grant in the system. So go ahead and you'll click on grants on the left-hand side, and you'll just have one unless you have your organization has multiple grants. We have many test grants, so I'm just going to click on a farm to school grant as a test. And you can click anywhere in the bar. You don't have to click on the name of the grant. You can click anywhere within that menu to open up your grant, and that will then take you to what's called the grant components menu. And your budget amount will be here where it says awarded amount, and this will be the menu that you use primarily for what you need to do for all things to manage your grant. And so you'll see the first thing, general information, is a system form. You don't need to worry about that, but everything under that relates to you. So claims is where you'll submit your requests for payment. Status reports, where you'll access your interim and status report template to complete, as Gina was talking about. And then there'll be some forms that are pulled through from your application, such as your budget, your grant agreement. When you click on grant agreement, that your executed agreement will live here for reference. It will also be emailed to you, or a link will be emailed to you after everything has been signed by your organization and ours. So once it's fully executed, you can access it by email through DocuSign, but it will also be uploaded here for future reference. One thing to note about working in web grants, it's really helpful to click the back button that they provide. Sometimes if you use the back button in the internet browser, it takes you to a funny place that wasn't where you just were. And that may even happen with the back button in web grants as well. It's definitely not a perfect system. It has its kinks and little personality traits that you might learn over time. But if anything becomes challenging or not manageable, then of course, feel free to reach out. And then funding opportunity here in your menu is just a reminder of which grant you're looking at. If you have multiple, you can, see the outline of the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grant components, and then your application that was submitted and approved. So those are just, it's sort of the backbone of the grant management pieces. Status reports and claims, of course, when you log in for the first time, will be empty because nothing has been entered yet. But if you click on claims, which is the first thing that many of you or your business office or fiscal agent staff will be doing, is to come in here, and you won't see anything in the menu, but add claim is the first thing that you'll do. Again, your budget amount will be here. Refer to your grant agreement for the amount that you're eligible to submit for. Right off the bat, we do have one who has a different scenario where they need more upfront. And so that's just a caveat to share, that if you find yourself in a place where you've looked at your grant agreement and you say, oh, we're eligible to claim $10,000, but you know what, over the next couple of months, we're really going to need more than that, then feel free to reach out to Gina and explain your situation. We do prefer to know that sooner rather than later, so we can write your grant agreement and accommodate for that if that situation applies to you. And the guideline that Gina went over as far as the percentage and the timeline is a guide, but we understand that projects evolve and things change, and that if you need funds sooner or later than you thought, then we're open to talking to you about why that may be. So I won't go through a claim fully, but I will reference that there is a claim guide that Gina also mentioned, and there's a page on our website, which is also in the next slide of our presentation, resources for grant applicants and recipients. So this has links to a lot of the common documentation that we've already been talking about today. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, You have some links under using web grants, how to submit a status report and how to submit a claim. These are step-by-step instructions for how to walk you through the process. So when you open the claims guide, you can see your, screenshots of the login screen and what to click next, literally one step at a time. So if you or whoever will be submitting claims can use that help, then please refer to that. And if you've read that and still have an issue, then feel free to reach out to me and I'd be glad to walk you through anything that you may need help with. So I'll just point out that this is a little bit strange. Excuse me. There's these blue links in the middle of the screen. So as you remember, we were in this grant component menu. And you're welcome to go back to the grant component menu and switch back and forth if you need to between one item and another. But if, for example, you've submitted a claim and you forgot, oh, I need to also submit my status report, then you can click from one item to the next using these little blue links in the middle without having to go back to the menu. So that's just a little shortcut, and Web Grants looks like it's being a little slow today. But see, I'm in claims and I move my cursor over and there's status reports. So you can move right through the different items as you need to. So that's sort of a basic rundown of web grants. I think that should cover it, but certainly raise your hand or speak out or put something in the chat if it would be helpful to go over something else. And if you have anybody else on your team who could use this demo, you can show them the recording, but same thing, I'm always accessible if you prefer to have some one-on-one outreach time on how to navigate the system. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn it back to Gina.
Thank you so much, Diana. That was a very speedy look through at the system. Really appreciate you covering all the bases to kind of give the high-level overview of how it operates. And yeah, if you follow the link in the chat, it's the same one that was up on the slide earlier. And that will bring you to all of those web grants guides, which includes a guide that Diana started walking through on how to submit a claim. So that's going to be super useful to you in the near future. So I recommend bookmarking this link that I just put in the chat as well. And yeah, here we are. It's 2 p.m. So gonna let everyone go. Unless there are any burning questions, I can hang on for a few more minutes and those can be captured in the recording. Okay. I'm not hearing anything, but if you do have any questions, yes, please, Sherry, do be in touch. Feel free to reach out to me and Diana about anything regarding your grant agreement, and you will speak to your coaches and team soon at the action planning workshops in early March. So that'll be another time to kind of dive deeper into how you'll actually implement the project. So thank you all so much for your time, and thank you to Diana and to all the TA providers and coaches who introduced yourselves and helped facilitate this conversation. Please reach out with any questions and enjoy the rest of your Thursday. And I'll share this recording out to the whole email list so you can reference it again later and share with folks on your team if they weren't able to join. All right. Thank you so much for being here, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.